Alrighty everybody, so hopefully you can hear me just fine throughout this video. It's pretty windy here. But today I'm going to be showing you how I bevel my stringers and attach them to the stems. So I've already marked off everything and I've kind of cut guidelines because this is one of the most frustrating and satisfying parts of these builds, in my opinion. Because if it comes out right, you have a really nice form. If it comes out poorly and you don't cut them correctly or cut them quite right to your liking, you might have to replace part of your stringer, or figure something out that will work. So yeah, I love and hate this part. So I have this piece of string which I have attached down there to my keel, and I'll try to show you here. So through this form right there, I've attached it to my keel, and this is going to provide a center line. And then come over sorry. Alright. And you come over, pull this string tight, and I like to measure from one of the corners, whichever gunnel or whichever stringer is shorter. In this case it was this one. So I marked off here, and then I marked off on the string, and then I did the same thing on this side, marked off the corner. Don't pull too hard on this, because it will stretch, and you don't want to be, have too much variation between the two stringers. So I marked it off here, and then I came to where it touched on this corner, and I marked that off on the string, and just boop, back and forth on each side. I also did the same thing here, and with these stringers, your chines, they actually did come forward past the stringer. You want them set back a bit. It'll help with the curvature of the skin when you go to put it on. And what happens is you'll have a nice long sharp bow stem, and that allows it to come to a fine point, really cut through the water. The back of your kayak and the stern will be more rounded, really. It'll still come to a point, of course. It's just not as narrow and fine like a knife. Alright, so you've marked this off, and now what you'll do after that, I did the same in the stern. I'll show you when I get back there as well. Just move the string out of the way. You don't need to take it off or anything. Just let it set off to the side or throw it off. And then you're going to take your saw, and I start on the high corner because this is going to be fairly slippery depending on what you used to seal it. It's going to be slippery regardless, just because it's sanded wood and you're cutting at an awkward angle. This is also going to be more difficult depending on what handed you are. I'm right-handed, so this side will be far more difficult because I'll have to reach over. I honestly can't use a saw with my left hand at all. Alright, so you start off at the corner, and you can kind of angle in a little bit just to give yourself a small groove for your teeth to bite into and not slip out of. Also, you can put your thumb up against it and just go back and forth real slowly until you form a line, and you notice that your saw blade isn't moving around too much. As well, my bevels are slightly different than other people's bevels in their builds. They will go cut off more of a chunk, where I like to have it a little more fine or a little more refined, making it also that much more difficult. So come in here and you just get your guideline going a little bit. You can be at an angle, but your finished cut should be straight up and down, perpendicular to the ground. You need to basically try to keep as parallel to your stem as possible, assuming it is properly centered by now. And then you'll just move back and forth real slow, putting significant amount of pressure on your saw blade just so the teeth can kind of carve in. You know, not too much so that you're not sliding all around just tearing up the wood. I use this saw because it's a little easier to handle. The blade curves a little bit, and I can get a nice starter line going in here. And then I'll switch over to my other saw because it has more aggressive teeth, and I got a bit of wood I got to get through. This can tend to take quite a while. Also, you'll find that the different grips tend to get in the way sometimes. This is really good for the chine area because you're not going to be able to fit any other saw in there really. So this blade width is also thinner, but let's see. I switch over to this saw because I have more control. This won't wiggle around. The handle is a little bit more out of the way. However, because it's so bulky, I can't use it, you know, to get into the finer places. The handle is also a little bulky, so you want to get fairly deep. And this will kind of tear up this edge right here because it's so thin and it's getting so close. I'll show you. You'll just go back over and really fine everything out, fine tune everything with some sandpaper.
Honestly,
If you saw, try to show you the cut. So that's the one I did yesterday. That's gonna attach up like that when I pull it. See? It's gonna form a nice bond right there, along with this one here. So see how that's nice and smooth going all the way down. And then when I lash it, it'll fit on there just like that. And I'll clean that up with some sandpaper. That'll look nice. And yeah, there you go. So you got to do that a few more times. And yeah, it's a long, tedious process, but honestly, if done right, done well, it looks remarkable in the end. And then you'll also have a plate, an end plate running here, which will... Alright, so once you switch to the other side, you're gonna kind of rely on your eyeballs, to be honest with you, as you cut down this to make sure you're maintaining the exact same or similar line. You're going to want to watch the angle of your cut here. You want to make sure that it pretty much looks like it's lining up with your cut on the other side. Like I said, just this part, go slow, maintain your line. Try to make sure your saw blade is as straight up and down as possible. Try not to rock it back and forth like this too much. You'll find that you won't cut straight. Alright, and so if you want to check your work, So this is pretty much how these were lined up. This one was a little bit shorter. Boom. I can actually line them up fairly well with this because these were almost equal length. Okay, did I do a good cut? It's a little bit deeper on this side. That's fine. Look at that. That's almost exactly. Hopefully you can see that. So there it is. Okay, that is almost perfect. Little deeper on this side. This one here. That's not bad. It's almost exactly lined up. So yeah, that's how my method is fairly good. And now I got to do this one. So these ones aren't as important with getting this bevel in here. You can actually just cut it off if you want to take a piece of cloth and you can stretch it over right here and just see where these are going to poke out, and you can cut them off a little back. If you wanted to bevel them a little bit, you could just sand the bevel in there. But yeah, I'm still going to cut the line in there because I just like the way it looks. But that is an option too. You don't have to go through the trouble of beveling these, your chines, as much as you do your gunnels. I would highly recommend putting a bevel in here because that'll provide more stability for your stems not to rock back and forth so much when battling the waves out in the water. It'll also help to stabilize and straighten your stems while you're putting your skin on as well, because there's going to be an immense amount of stretching involved, and you want your bow and stern stems to be as stable as possible when you're doing the skin. Ready, so I'm going to cut this guy off, and then we're going to move on down to the stern and do the exact same thing. This one I didn't do too good of a line on. The stern's going to be a little more tricky because it's not nearly as long, and I won't be able to do this as much. There's going to be a lot less play in the stringers to move them away from the stems so that I can cut them accurately. So again, I'm just kind of guiding it with my fingers. That's why I'm wearing gloves, so I'm not cutting into them. This is a straight saw, so these teeth are not wider than the width of the blade. So the cut is exactly the same. You don't have the chance of, you know, the feathered teeth cutting into your hand. So I mean, you don't need to wear gloves, I guess is what the point I was trying to make. Alright, that was, wow. One thing while you're cutting, be cutting the way when you're looking at it, it can really throw you off because the angle on the back edge is so much more exaggerated than this angle right here, which is the angle you want to be looking for. It can fool you sometimes to make you think that you're cutting way off. So just keep that in mind, you know, what angles you actually want to be looking at. And then we're just going to sand this, clean up these edges real nice. This is just 100 grit. Be careful not to hit the stem, because it's sealed. Don't want to break that seal. And then you're going to go in here and get this back edge. That's going to have a lot of feathering and debris on it. And just take the sandpaper off the block on this side, fold it over. Just give that a nice scrape. And get the back edge here. And we'll clean up this edge right here. Ew. That looks terrible. It's okay. It doesn't have to look pretty. There we go. Cool, now we get to go do the other side.